Before we begin, if you live in Ontario and are looking for a better insurance rate for your home or car, give us a call at 437-449-6811. We can help you find better rates with good insurance advice that saves you money. On a chilly November morning in Toronto, hundreds of skilled workers gathered outside Queen's Park, the majestic provincial legislature building in Ontario. Wrapped in winter jackets and toques, they held signs high, their breath visible in the crisp air. These were not people seeking handouts or making unreasonable demands. These were carpenters, welders, electricians, and other tradespeople, many originally from Punjab, who had come to Canada with dreams of building a better life and who now found themselves standing in the cold, demanding answers. The reason for their protest was both simple and devastating. On November 14, 2025, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, commonly known as OINP, made an announcement that would shatter the hopes of thousands. The government abruptly suspended its express entry skilled trade stream, a pathway that had promised permanent residency in Ontario to skilled workers. What made this decision particularly crushing was not just the suspension itself, but what came with it. Approximately 2,600 to 2,680 pending applications, some of which had been waiting for over a year, were summarily returned, rejected, and dismissed. The Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, for those unfamiliar, is a provincial initiative designed to help Ontario select and recruit skilled workers who possess the talents and experience that the provincial economy desperately needs. It is essentially a bridge between temporary work permits and permanent residency, a crucial stepping stone for foreign workers who want to make Canada their permanent home. The skilled trades stream specifically targeted experienced tradespeople in occupations that Ontario claimed were in high demand. Roles like construction workers, manufacturing specialists, and maintenance professionals. To be eligible, workers typically needed at least 1 year of full-time work experience in the province, valid language test scores, and an active express entry profile with the federal government. For many of these workers, the OINP represented more than just a bureaucratic process. It represented hope, stability, and the promise of a future. They had followed every rule meticulously. They had paid their application fees, which ranged into hundreds of dollars. They had taken language proficiency tests, invested in expensive documentation, and worked tirelessly in jobs that Canadians themselves had acknowledged were critical to building the province's infrastructure. Many had been invited to apply by the Provincial Labour Ministry itself, receiving what is known as a Notification of Interest, or NOI, which made them believe that Ontario genuinely wanted their skills and contributions. Then came the bombshell announcement. The Ontario government claimed that an internal review of the program had uncovered something deeply troubling. According to the official statement released on November 14, the review had identified what they termed as systemic misrepresentation and fraud, or the possibility of fraud, related to the skilled trade stream eligibility criteria. The government argued that these issues were so severe, so widespread, and so systemic, that they could no longer confidently determine whether applicants genuinely met the program requirements. As a result, the decision was made not just to suspend new applications, but to return every single pending application, regardless of whether that specific application showed any signs of fraud or not. The workers standing outside Queen's Park were understandably devastated and angry. Many of them pointed to a fundamental injustice in the government's approach. As one protester, Shafna Shamsuddin, told reporters, the government had painted all of them with the same brush, effectively labeling everyone as fraudulent, without providing any individual assessment or specific evidence. Shamsuddin herself had come to Canada to work as a welder at a company in Waterloo, Ontario, after her work visa ended in late August. She had been forced to stop working entirely and was now living in the country on visitor status, unable to earn a living, her future entirely uncertain. Her story echoes that of hundreds of others. Gurpreet Atel, another protester from Brantford, Ontario, shared that he had been waiting for more than a year to hear about the status of his application before it was suddenly returned last week. What made his situation even more frustrating was that through a Freedom of Information request, he had obtained documents showing that his OINP materials had actually been accepted by the government. He had believed, reasonably, that he was simply waiting for the official nomination to come through from the province. Instead, his application was returned without explanation, without individual review, and without any opportunity to defend himself against unspecified allegations of fraud. The impact of this decision extends far beyond simple disappointment. Many of these workers have invested not just money, but years of their lives into this process. They have built careers in Ontario, contributed to the local economy, paid taxes, and integrated into their communities. Some have children enrolled in schools, others have purchased homes or signed long-term leases. When their work visas expired while they waited for OINP approval, they found themselves in a precarious legal limbo. Without valid work permits, they cannot legally work. Without the ability to work, they cannot support themselves or their families. And now, without their OINP applications, they face the very real possibility of having to leave Canada entirely. The protesters are demanding something that seems entirely reasonable. They want the government to provide specific evidence of fraud in their individual applications. Many have said publicly that if the government can show genuine proof that their documents contain false information, they would voluntarily leave the country. What they cannot accept is being lumped together with fraudulent applicants when they themselves have done nothing wrong. As one worker put it simply and powerfully, if there are fraudulent applications in the system, then investigate those applications. Cancel those applications, but do not punish everyone equally when the vast majority have followed the rules honestly and completely. The question of what constitutes fraud or misrepresentation in this context remains frustratingly unclear. The government has not released detailed information about what specific problems they identified, how widespread these problems actually were, or what percentage of applications contained questionable information. Without this transparency, it is impossible for honest applicants to understand what went wrong or how they might be implicated in problems they did not create. This lack of clarity has only deepened the sense of injustice and confusion among the affected workers. Adding another layer of complexity to this situation is the timing of the government's expanded powers to return applications. Ontario Regulation 421/17, which governs the OINP, was amended on October 30, 2025, just 2 weeks before the mass return of applications. This amendment expanded the director's authority to suspend streams or return applications without full processing. However, many of the affected applicants had submitted their applications long before this regulatory change came into force. Legal experts have already begun questioning whether it is fair or even legal to apply these new powers retroactively to applications that were submitted under different rules and different expectations. The protests outside Queen's Park have been peaceful but persistent. For 3 consecutive days, workers braved the November cold to make their voices heard. They were joined by supporters, including Merritt Stiles, the leader of Ontario's New Democratic Party, who came outside to rally the protesters. Pointing toward the office window of Premier Doug Ford, Stiles told the gathered crowd that their protest was visible to anyone inside the building, and that they should continue to stand their ground and demand answers. She told them, "We see you, we hear you, and we are going to keep fighting for you." The Ontario government, for its part, has remained largely silent in response to specific questions from media outlets. The Ministry of Labour, which oversees the OINP, has not provided detailed responses to inquiries about why a blanket approach was chosen instead of individual assessments, what specific evidence of fraud was found, or how many applications actually contain problematic information. The ministry has simply stated that all pending applications under the skilled trade stream will be returned, that application fees will be refunded, and that affected applicants may submit new expressions of interest under other OINP streams if they meet the eligibility criteria for those programs. This situation is made even more bitter by recent history. Just months ago, Ontario had been touting the OINP, and the skilled trade stream in particular, as the best tool available to fill critical labor gaps in the province. The government had publicly forecasted needing approximately 100,000 skilled tradespeople over the next decade to meet the demands of infrastructure development, construction projects, and economic growth. Now, at a time when these workers are needed more than ever, the very program designed to recruit and retain them has been shut down, leaving thousands of skilled, experienced, and willing workers in limbo. The broader context also matters. The federal government has significantly reduced the allocation of provincial nominee spots for 2025, cutting the quota by approximately 50% compared to previous years. This has forced Ontario to become far more selective and frugal with its nominations, prioritizing certain sectors, like healthcare and technology, over others. No draws have occurred for express entry streams in 2025 so far, with the last one dating back to October 2024. The combination of reduced federal allocations and increased scrutiny of program integrity has created a perfect storm for skilled trades. Workers who find themselves caught in the middle of bureaucratic and political decisions beyond their control. For these workers, the path forward is unclear and deeply uncertain. Some may try to apply under different OINP streams, though many of those streams have different eligibility criteria that not all skilled trades workers will meet. Others may look to provincial nominee programs in other provinces, though this would require uprooting their lives once again and starting over in unfamiliar communities. Still others, like Ankit Patel, who spoke to reporters, have exhausted their savings during the long waiting period and may have no choice but to give up on their Canadian dreams entirely and return to their home countries. The human cost of this decision cannot be measured simply in numbers or statistics. Behind each of those 2,600 returned applications is a person, a family, a story of hope and effort and sacrifice. These are people who left their home countries, often leaving behind aging parents, established careers, and familiar support networks. They came to Canada because they were told their skills were needed. They worked hard, they paid their dues, they played by the rules, and they waited patiently for the system to work as promised. Now they stand in the cold outside Queen's Park, holding signs, demanding justice, and asking for nothing more than a fair assessment of their individual cases and a chance to prove that they belong in the country they have worked so hard to help build. If you found this story important and want to stay informed about the real issues affecting immigrants, skilled workers, and communities across Canada and beyond, please consider liking this video, sharing it with your friends and family who need to know about these developments, and subscribing to the West is Best channel. We bring you the stories that matter, the voices that need to be heard, and the truth behind the headlines. Your support helps us continue covering these critical issues that impact thousands of lives. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of informed viewers who care about justice, fairness, and the human stories behind the news. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.